Thank you for tuning in for our MCH regional conversations. The goal of these is to make sure people from across the state know homelessness is a crisis. And today, our guest is David, who is the executive director at Family Promise in Anoka County. And interesting and fun fact is that they're actually celebrating this year 10 years of serving families. So thank you, David, for that work. Thank you, Family Promise, for the decade of experience y'all have. And I'm just going to dive right in. So our first question, one of MCH's legislative priorities is making sure there's enough shelter beds and quality shelter beds. Can you talk about your experience and in Anoka County, what Family Promise is doing? Why do we need more shelter beds?
Well, I can say from our perspective at Family Promise that we have seen a lot of growth in the number of people that are looking for assistance. We work specifically with families, and in the rotational shelter model that we've been using with churches, we have a limit of 3 to 4 families at a time. Usually it's effectively 3 families at a time, and that's all that we can do for all of Anoka County. It's pretty restrictive. With COVID-19, what we've seen though is that because we weren't able to do that rotation, it was a little bit scary. We thought we might not be able to do things at all. Instead, being able to partner with Anoka County itself to help provide hotel spaces to use that instead of the rotational shelter model we were using, we were able to double the number of families we were serving, but we're still getting a whole lot of phone calls. We're still having a lot of people that we're not able to serve. So we know that the need is out there, and there just isn't a place to send people. If we are full, which we always are, operating off of a callback list, we don't have a place to send people. So we are it. So the more beds, the more that we can add in, the more families in our county that are going to be able to be helped. And the sooner we'll be able to help them, the fewer barriers they'll have in their way. So it's really critical that we get those beds, that we get space and capacity built in so that we can help people faster, help people out of homelessness quicker with fewer barriers, and get them back into a spot where it's safe for them and where they're able to move forward stably.
Right. Yeah, I know we've talked a handful of times, and I know of Family Promise. You're on this journey of trying to do more and making sure you're still doing it well. Do you mind walking us through that process? What's it look like for what, your goals are as an organization?
Yeah, so for the last 10 years, we've been using that rotational shelter model. And in the last few years, we've been looking at that and saying it's really great. We can activate volunteers in the churches. It's a great way to get the community involved in the issue of homelessness. But the limitations there are ones that have left us wondering what we could do more. And so instead of using that rotation where the families are doing the overnights and getting their meals at the congregations, we're looking at flipping that on its head into a more traditional model where the families would be coming to one central place, and that's where they would be living, and the volunteers would come basically to their home. We call that a static site. We want to build a guest house. That's kind of the operating idea that we have. Whether that is a renovation of a space, we're working with one of our partner congregations to create space to build a final product so that we could have a permanent home that would be able to serve more families, just do it in a more trauma-informed way, and to be able to really give them the space that they need to quickly move forward and to work. So where we are in that process right now is a little bit unclear. We've been working with a couple of cities in our area recently, moving forward with some, having a little bit harder time with some others to really find the space that we can make that happen. Since our rotation has ceased, we've been talking about, first of all, we've been talking about this guest house idea, moving it from that rotation to a static site for 3 or 4 years now. But COVID-19 has really moved us into a spot that we feel like the time is now, or maybe 3 or 4 months ago even, to make this happen. The rotation, it'll be really difficult for us to ever get that going again with the number of churches that are closed and stuff. So we really see this as an opportunity that's been provided for us to take this big leap and to make the difference. Now the question is, what will it take to pull it off? As far as fundraising, funding, buy-in from the cities, things like that. It's all stuff that we're working through now, but our goal is to really be able to boost the number of families that we're serving and to do it in a way that is going to meet them where they're at a little bit more, as we're working toward that.
Well, you really, one of our legislative priorities is to get money for shelter capital, which means construction of shelters, rehabilitation, and acquisition. So, if we're doing our job as advocates, hopefully, we're able to help speed up that timeline, make sure you got the resources you need. So the final question is, these videos, you specialize in Anoka County, do a great job there, but these videos are meant for people from across the state to listen in. So with that in mind, is there something you'd like to tell the people that are listening in for, when we're advocating to end homelessness?
Yeah, I really appreciate when people who haven't experienced it themselves and people who maybe have a stable home and a stable environment really take this issue seriously and would do things like take the time to watch these videos to get to know organizations and to engage in the community in that way. Part of our family promise model, a really deep and important part of what we do is engage the local congregations and the local community to take steps toward helping people experiencing homelessness, but also to look at the community factors that cause it and that could be helping that could be used to and change to help families move forward in positive and meaningful ways. And when people across the state show that this is a priority, and when they're taking time to watch videos, to do some advocacy, whether that's at the state level, at the local level, within their own community groups, with their book studies, whatever they want to do, the more that people are able to talk about this issue that is growing, but is so often hidden, the better off we're going to be as far as making that happen. And just like all the volunteers that we have with Family Promise, all of the donors and funders that make it that way, there is just a level of efficiency that happens when a lot of people join together and build that community to come together for the community to make a difference for some of the people who are really struggling. And it just makes a big impact on the whole community, on the families experiencing homelessness. And really, it says a lot about our state and the people who live here if we're going to do something about this and take a lead on this and make a difference.
All right. Well, thank you, David. That's great. We know shelters save lives, housing ends homelessness, and that has to happen at, as you said, local, regional, state level. So if you're watching this, again, watch David's interview, watch some of the other interviews that we've posted. And David, again, thank you for the work you're doing, and thank you for taking the time to do this interview.
Thank you, and thanks to you and for all the work that you do, and for everybody out there too. Same thing. Thank you for really making an impact for people experiencing homelessness.